Boom. What's up, guys? It's Zach coming to you live from the EC. Once again, we're running virtual events, but we are open. So if you ever want some FaceTime, need to talk to someone, get out of the house, come out, we'll mask up. I do have like an exciting matching mask. Optimism, optimism, optimism is kind of like my motto right now. But I'm just excited to have Austin here from Knoxville, actually super involved in the Knoxville entrepreneurial community. Because of these virtual times, we can obviously bring him here and get him here in Nashville just to talk about being a freelancer and make some shmoney, hopefully. But anyways, awesome, Austin, I'll hand things off to you.
Okay, so I don't know how much you all have done with freelancing. So first things in the first, that's a saying, I promise. People say this, but first things first, tell me in the chat where you are with freelancing. Brand new, established, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just curious because this presentation, I guess I'll call it a workshop, is called Freelance Business Blueprint. Wherever you are in your journey, I think you'll find something of value. But again, super helpful to know where you are. I've been doing this 12 years. I wear the hat to cover up all my gray hair. There's a lot of it now. My wife likes it, but I'm like, I don't know, honey. I'm still going to go with the hat. But anyway, tell me where you're at. And then I'm going to, Haley, do I already have screen sharing capabilities?
Yep, you should be able to share your screen. Let me know if not.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to dive into this. I'll tell you just a little bit about myself, but mostly what I want to do is help you guys get some clarity today. So, let me make sure I've got everything going. Cool. And then I'll toggle over to Keynote. Cool. And then I tell you, one of my victories this year was actually figuring out how to use Keynote on Zoom. It is such a funny thing.
Okay. I don't even know how to use Keynote on Zoom.
All right, so let's see, actually, give me one sec. All right, and what I can do is resize this frame and just show you guys the presentation. Makes me think of Napoleon Dynamite, which is not a popular movie anymore, but there's that scene where he says, "I love technology," which is not actually true of me. I'd be fine just hacking away on a typewriter all day. Anyway, okay, can you all give me a little bit of visual feedback? Can you all see Freelance Business Blueprint?
We can see it.
Hallelujah. Okay. So this is me. I grew up in Nashville. I grew up in Brentwood. Do not judge. Those of you who live in Nashville, do not judge me for growing up in Brentwood. Had no choice in the matter. But I moved to Knoxville for my master's in English and ended up staying here. It's close to the mountains, really cool place to live. I'm back in Nashville all the time because my side of the family still lives there. Older sister. My older sister found out that she lives in the same neighborhood as Jack White from the White Stripes. And he comes to like the neighborhood potluck things. And he always brings chips and salsa. So there's a little funny factoid for you. I guess this was when they still had neighborhood potlucks like in January. But anyway, so I was an English major. I got out of school. I had my master's in creative writing with a focus in poetry. Had no idea what I wanted to do except that I was done with academia and got a job at a marketing firm. That was 2009. And then I got laid off during the Great Recession that started sort of 2007, 2008, and really came to a head in 2009. 2020 has been eerily familiar to me because there's so many things happening, minus the pandemic, right? That was not happening, but we're in the middle of another recession. And so I lost my job at a time that was really scary. And what I'd like to do today is, wherever you are in your freelance journey, maybe make things a little bit less scary, help you have a little boost in confidence, maybe get you some more clarity. The way I think about solving problems is pretty methodical, which you will see. But my goal today is to send you away with more clarity and confidence. I think somebody may not be muted, which is A-okay. But
I just fixed it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Haley. Okay, so put your phone on silent. Please write down your questions along the way. Don't put me in that position at the end of having to pretend like some of you asked questions and you really didn't. Like, I will make up fake questions if I have to, but don't put me in that position, right? Okay, and have fun. Like, if there's one thing I've learned about freelancing, it's if I'm having fun and taking some risks, I'm normally succeeding at a much faster rate than when I'm like trying to be really cool and really impressive. Okay. So Haley and I are going to connect, and I'm going to send you there's a really cool freelance business blueprint poster. There are worksheets and 6 videos, and I'll also, maybe we'll get to put up a replay of the webinar. Maybe we won't. I'll connect with Haley. At the very least, I'll make sure that you get all of the worksheets and videos, so that if there's something that you want to go deeper with that we cover today, you can do that. Cool? Cool. Okay. I already told you I got laid off. I will never forget this number, $486 in my bank account. And I felt like an idiot, because I'm like, how did I get to the point where, like, I know better. Like, I should have more runway. I should have an emergency fund. But I had $486. I'd never taken a singer. I hadn't taken a singer class either, but I had never taken a single marketing or business class. And I was like, just freaking out, because woke up on a Friday morning, had a job within a couple hours, didn't have a job, woke up on a Monday, and I'm like, okay, God, what are we going to do about this? What's happening next? My thesis was a collection of my poems. I was not exactly set up to succeed, right? I was a poet. I was not a businessman. And so what could possibly go wrong? But, and this is the silver lining. Within 6 months, I had landed my first big retainer for $2,900 a month, which was a lot of money to me at the time, because I had literally qualified for food stamps in grad school, and it was transformative. And even more than that, it was a huge boost in confidence, because it made me realize that freelancing could work for me. And you know, that sort of launched my journey into becoming a freelancer who consistently earned 6 figures. And over the last 10 plus years, I've kind of looked around and noticed the people who create sustainable and satisfying businesses are all kind of making the same moves. Meanwhile, there are a lot of folks who sort of get trapped on that feast or famine roller coaster. What separates the one group from the other group? Because it's not talent, it's not intelligence. And a lot of it, I think, comes down to business acumen and committing to learning how to be good at this thing called business. It is a skill that you can learn. And when I really thought about, okay, if I were back in 2009, April 2009, and I had zero network, I was getting started from scratch, but I knew what I now know, how would I go about building my freelance business? So that's what I want to walk you through, is here's how I would build my freelance business, 11 plus years ago, if I were starting from scratch. And okay, love this quote from Jason Fried, because it kind of says it all. Freelancing is not about making great money, because you can make great money with this. But for me, freelancing has been about freedom, being able to make my own schedule, being able to go on my kids' field trips, being able to, if a friend needs help, whatever, just having that flexibility. And so if you commit to becoming good at the business of freelancing, you're probably already good at the skills, design or writing or development or photography or illustration or strategy, those things. Building a business requires a different skill set, and you can acquire it. And so once you commit to that, you get the freedom. And for me, the freedom has always been more important than the money. For example, I was able to publish my children's book based on a true story that my grandmother told me growing up. Did the Kickstarter thing. It was an incredible journey. The best part was doing a book signing with my grandmother in Nashville. And she turned to me and she said, "Austin, I just feel so honored by you." So in my mind, I have linked up continuing to build my freelance business with being able to work on my own side projects and passion projects that I'm excited about. And so I guess if I were to make one point, I would say money is never the point. Money just represents something else that you want. And I really think it's important to know going into like, okay, I'm going to get serious about building my business. Fine. What will that extra $5,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 in freelance income enable you to start saying yes to? What do you want to say yes to that you can't say yes to right now? Focus on that. Like I said, I love going on field trips with my kids. I like being able to go on a date in the middle of the day with my wife. So maybe you and your partner want to go out on more dates. Maybe you want to adopt a kid. Maybe you want to travel more. Maybe you have a creative project that you want to follow through with. But just stay focused on why you got into this in the first place, right? All right, this looks like a lot. This is the poster. In the next 20 minutes or so, we're just going to break this down step by step. And if there's one thing I would recommend, it would be this. Cheat. And I don't mean do something dishonest. I mean, follow a framework like this so that you don't have to repeat all of the mistakes that I made, because I could not find something like this back in 2009. So cheat. And that's what the process I'm going to walk you through. You may have to upgrade your mindset. And it's so funny and it's so counterintuitive for those of us who got into freelancing because we have a skill like writing. My skill was writing. And I thought that the writers who had more talent made more money. And that is not true. There are people out there with a third of your talent making 3 times as much money as you are. And it comes down to it. A lot of it comes down to their positioning, but I'm going to steal my own thunder. I will remember to tell you about the golden suitcase at the end, because it actually ties into that whole pricing and branding thing. But anyway, all right. Remember to put your questions in the chat, and then let's just dive into the actual process, okay? So you're getting into freelancing and you're really wanting to ramp up. Step number 1 is listing out all of your skills. You may already think that you know exactly the skill that you need to use to level up your freelance business, but you've had education, you've had past jobs. Some of you might even be established freelancers and you've already had some gigs, you've gotten some gigs under your belt, but you've picked up skills and experience and perspective and expertise along the way. Step number 1 is just to put all of that out on the table and list everything out. So let's take Jenny. Jenny is good at Microsoft Office, cooking, basketball, blogging, email marketing, bookkeeping, and Instagram. Particularly, she feels really comfortable on this design platform called Canva. So I would recommend, if you're not like Jenny and you haven't already listed out everything, just set a timer for 10 minutes and brainstorm as many of your skills as you can think about, right? Even if they don't seem directly relevant to your freelancing right now. So once you make your list, you then want to narrow it down to your top 3. And when I say top 3, I mean top 3 that are most marketable right now. Most marketable right now. Jenny, if she's good at basketball, she could try out for the WNBA, but the odds are against her, right? And if she's great at cooking, then yeah, she could be a freelance chef, I guess. But when you think about getting traction faster in your freelance business, look at the skills that are most marketable right now. So for Jenny, those skills would be blogging, Canva design for Instagram, and email marketing. Step 3, and this is really important, right? Because a lot of us, when we get all businessy and we're like, all right, time to get serious, time to buckle down. I'm going to put on my Southern accent when I'm talking about buckling down. We kind of forget that we're naturally, or we're already interested in certain things. Jenny is good at bookkeeping, but what if she hates it? Like, what if it bores her to tears? So I would not recommend that you point your freelance business at something that you don't enjoy, right? So your interests are important because they enable you to work with your natural curiosity and enthusiasm instead of against them. Now, granted, there are some client projects that I have done that, let's just be honest, they were not the most, I was not passionate about polishing. I'll put it that way. But when you're getting started, or if you're trying to recalibrate your business, think about your interests. What are you enthusiastic and curious about? For me, barbecue, bourbon. I just landed a dream client. It's an outdoor brand that I already liked. And I felt like I won the lottery because they paid me to buy a bunch of their gear. Are you kidding me? This is awesome. So work with your natural enthusiasm. List your interests. For Jenny, startups, law, barbecue, politics, and she's a mom. So these are the things that she's interested in, right? Now you have the 2 lists, right? You have your top 3 most marketable skills right now, and then you have your interests. Well, if you think about a Venn diagram with overlapping circles, well, where those 2 circles overlap, those are potential niches for you. So when you think about which niche to pick, when you're aiming your freelance services in any particular direction, I do recommend picking 2 niches. More on that in a second. But how do you know a good niche for you? You believe that you can enjoy the work. You believe that you'll enjoy the people. I'm telling you, I have gotten paid really well to work with difficult people, and it was miserable. I wrapped up a project in August, and it was a longtime client, but they had a new marketing director, and it was, I don't think he even knew, but he was my kryptonite. He was so imprecise in his communication. Directions were always a moving target. My team ended up making a lot of money on that, and I'm like, I was ready to walk away almost from like day one. Look for enjoyable people. Like, life's too short to spend most of your time working with people who you wouldn't want to grab a beer with. Okay. Profitable projects, that's important, right? It's going to be really hard to sell profitable projects in some niches because the decision makers in that niche, like let's say you decided you were going to design and develop websites for college students. Guess who has no money? College students, right? So try to find a niche where people, the business owners, the decision makers, have money and are willing to spend it. And then finally, this is another big one. Are the people in this niche buying what you do more than once every 5 years? Like, we do visual identity packages, but those can't be our bread and butter because people only, redo a logo and color system and their typography lockups and so on and so forth. What, every 5-10 years? So a lot of freelancers make things harder for themselves if there's not a specific type of project that you can deliver, where that very same client might need it again very soon, right? So that's why writers focusing on web content will find it harder to get consistent work than writers focused on blogging, because most companies want to blog every single month. All right, I think that horse is dead. Have I beaten that dead horse? Sorry. Anyway, consistency is key. You want clients to buy from you again and again. Find 4 niche ideas and then narrow them down to the top 2 most promising niche ideas. I see a lot of freelancers, including the ones that I coach, saying, all right, I found my niche. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, I hate my niche. What am I going to do now? And I'm like, okay, pick 2 and try to get a client in each niche just to figure out, do I even enjoy working with people in this target audience? So in Jenny's case, she narrowed it down to startups and law firms. She doesn't know which one she's going to enjoy more, so she's going to try both. And that's really okay. And the next step, and again, this is one that a lot of the freelancers I coach have never gone through this process. Have you taken the time to really delve into the goals, pains, problems, needs, wants, objections for a decision maker in your target audience? So you can call it a customer avatar. You can call it a buyer persona. You can call it an ideal customer profile. If marketers excel at anything, I guess it's coming up with synonyms. Call it an ideal customer profile or a dream client profile. Does not matter. Jenny would want to get inside the head of the managing partner at a law firm. What are his pain points, right? Like, why would he ever even need someone like Jenny in the first place? And so think through scenarios. Maybe the law firm, they have an email list, and maybe Kenneth even sees the value in sending regular email newsletters. But if he's billing out his time for $350, $400 an hour, right? Does it make sense for him to write email content? No, it does not. Might he worry a little bit that this awesome list of clients that he's got, past clients, that his firm is missing out on opportunities because he doesn't stay in touch? Yeah, like that causes him a little bit of heartburn, right? Like, my time is too valuable for me to write the emails, and yet I know that if we were to write emails, we would do a better job at staying top of mind. Okay, wouldn't it be nice for someone just to come in and handle that? So if you ask the why questions and really dig into what a target client or decision maker in your target audience wants, then you'll find it a whole lot easier to develop messaging that is clear and empathetic, that shows this client that you really get it. More on that in a second. We still first have to decide what it is that you're selling. Sell outcomes, not skills. If you remember nothing else, remember this: you will make a lot more money selling outcomes instead of skills. So pretend you're a surgeon for a second. I love this analogy. Do people go shopping for a hip replacement? Oh, let's see. After we hit up Target, I should go over to the shop and see what they have in the way of hip replacements. No, you only decide to endure a surgery because you're like, I want what is on the other side of the hip replacement. A friend of mine, she's a yoga teacher, and she loves teaching yoga, but her hips were hurting her. So for her to get a hip replacement meant that she could do something she loved without the pain. She also has grandkids. So when she's thinking about hip replacement, she's thinking, I want to be able to take my grandkids on a hike. I want to be able to do yoga. She's thinking about what's on the other side. She's thinking about her desire. She's thinking about an outcome. So that's a big difference. We freelancers often are selling the hip replacement instead of saying, imagine what it's going to be like when you can keep up with your grandkids. Imagine what it's going to be like when you can enjoy a hike. So instead of a freelance writer like Jenny saying high quality blog posts or well-edited social content, she can meet someone like Kenneth in his outcome. And he's sitting there thinking, man, how awesome would it be to get new business from our existing clients because we just show up and create value for them in their inboxes. Big difference. You know, here's what's going on in Kenneth's head. And you can get to these insights if you spend a little bit of time trying to think about what's really going on in the minds of people in my target audience. I won't read this to you. All-time biggest pet peeve with presentations, like when people just read their own slides. I bet some of you, like me, had college professors like that, and those are the classes I just always dreaded. Anyway, Kenneth is stuck. So if Jenny can come in and say, let me help you get unstuck, that's going to be so much more powerful than saying high quality blog content. Okay. So once you've really delved into there, if you want the fancy marketing word, it's psychographics. Once you have really gotten some clarity around the psychographics of people in your target audiences, your two niches, I want you to flesh out 3 core offers or productized services, packages of deliverables even. And each of these 3 offers is going to line up with what your clients really want or some outcome they've been dreaming about. Now, when you think through your offers, you're going to have both functional benefits, like what they get. And again, when we're selling something, we talk about and I use a lot of writing analogies because I'm a writer, but I'm like, I could talk about well-researched and well-edited blog posts. Well, those are functional benefits that a skilled writer delivers, right? But what is the emotional benefits of well-researched and well-edited blog posts? An emotional benefit is something that your client feels. Imagine how amazing it's going to be when your blog is up to date and you're putting really great content out. You're proactively sharing it with people in your network. You're putting it in your email newsletters. You're positioning yourself as a thought leader. It's going to come as a great relief when you're finally doing consistently the thing that has been embarrassing you for years because you weren't doing it, right? So think about once the client has this deliverable, or once I deliver the content, or once the website looks great, how will that make the client feel? Super important. We could go into the fact that emotion drives like 90% of our purchasing decisions later, and then we just sort of backfill the rationale. That's a whole other presentation. Okay, so here's an example from Jenny. Functional benefit, well-researched and well-written blog post. What would the emotional benefit be? Well, really have confidence in the content you're putting out into the world. Okay. Emotional benefits. Here are some that you can write down just because these are a lot of the most common ones. And I think they're actually more important. Yet a lot of freelancers with their messaging, even when you're finally in that meeting with a client, have you ever said, Okay, you hate your website. What would it feel like to have a website you're really proud of? That's where you need to be steering the conversation, right? But anyway, as you think through your 3 core offers, ask yourself these questions. What problems do my clients have? Wait, I'm not going to read this. Do you see that? I almost made the mistake. I was boring professor, right? But take a screenshot of this, take a photo, whatever. As you put together your offers, it's going to really help to have answers to these questions, right? And there's one other thing that I would add in here. Make a bold promise. When your clients get all this stuff, like, how's that going to make a difference for them? Anyway, Astrid has all these enigmatic smiles, and I'm like, I wonder what's going on in her head right now. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, okay. So if you answer these questions, now you've got all the raw content you need to develop your messaging. And if Jenny wants to go after startups and she wants to provide blogging for them, she could say this: I am a freelance writer who produces high quality content at an affordable price, and everyone is already asleep. Or she could say this: I will help you get unstuck by walking you through a step-by-step process. We will capture your incredible case studies in writing and make them entertaining and powerful. It's pretty good. I will make it easy for you to get your best ideas and stories down on paper, create content you're proud of, and build your brand. As your ghostwriter, I will save you a ton of time and help to position you as a thought leader. Do you see how different that is? Because it's emotional, because it shows that you understand the situation they're in, because it shows that you're pointing them toward their goals, moving them toward their goals. So much better, right? And it's not like this takes so much more time. You just have to go to the trouble of trying to understand what your prospect is thinking and feeling. And then I think it helps if you truly enjoy serving people, right? Okay, let's exhale. Maybe I just need to exhale. I'm the one talking a mile a minute. Anyway, we're almost finished. Here are the steps that we've covered. List your skills, pick your top 3 most marketable skills, list your interests, use where the 2 circles overlap to identify 4 niches, narrow it down to your top 2 niches. Then you get inside the minds of your prospects to understand what's really driving them. Then you create your 3 core offers. What outcomes am I going to sell to them? You're going to craft messaging to go around each of those offers. And then finally, prices. I know that this can really trip up a lot of freelancers. Also know that I told you I was going to tell you a story about a golden suitcase. So it's May 2009. I was freaking out because, like I said, I had very little cash in the bank. I managed to get a meeting through my friend Tammy with this guy named Andrew. I show up, probably had my shirt tucked in, right? And I had a physical portfolio, writing portfolio, and he like thumbed through it. And I'm sitting there like trying to sweat less, if that's possible, trying not to shake. And he was like, oh, your writing's actually pretty good. Oh, thank goodness, right? He asked me what my freelance rates were. And I like sort of summoned my courage, and I thought that he would laugh at me, but I was like, you know what? I have to be bold. My freelance writing rate is $40 an hour. And he like sort of thought about it. And then he said, do you mind if I give you some advice? And I thought, oh no. And yeah, give me some advice. I'm like, he's going to tell me that I like need to bump my rate down to like $20 an hour in order to be more competitive or whatever. And instead, he gave me what I now call the golden suitcase. Andrew said, if I were you, I would raise your rates to $75 an hour effective immediately. You're actually pretty good. And if you only charge 40 bucks an hour, you will not be taken seriously in larger markets. If you have agencies that are charging 150, 185 bucks an hour, and you come in and you're charging $40 an hour, even if you were just as good as the writer at the agency, you're going to look cheap. In other words, your pricing is your branding. Your pricing is part of your positioning. If you try to be competitive and you try to give clients a good deal, you send the wrong signals. And now that I'm in the place where I end up hiring freelancers quite a bit, I'm on the other side of the table. When I get someone who's really cheap, I'm thinking, oh, they lack experience, or they lack expertise, or they lack confidence. So low rates say, I don't respect the value I bring to the table. On the other hand, premium rates say, I'm good at what I do. I know how much I'm worth. You can trust my professionalism and expertise. This rate is what I deserve. Your pricing is your branding. And I don't think this will surprise any of you. Which do you expect to be of higher quality, a Timex or a Rolex watch? Well, a Rolex, of course, because it's way more expensive. And we all equate price with quality. I coach a variety of freelance writers, actually freelancers of all types, and a lot of them, especially earlier in the journey, think that being the cheaper option is a strong strategic move. And the reasoning goes like, okay, there's a marketing agency down the street. They charge twice as much as I do. My local clients will hire me instead because they get twice as much work for the same price. The problem is you don't even get the meeting most of the time. And then if you hand over your lower prices, they're kind of like, well, something's fishy here. If she were really good, she'd be charging more. So please, please, please keep that in mind as you set your prices. Are your prices sending the right signals or the wrong signals? Okay. When it comes to actually setting your prices, start with a very simple question. What do you need to charge in order to feel great about the project? Now, we live in different cities. I've given this presentation or a very similar one to, people all around the country, right? And like the cost of living in Manhattan is very different than the cost of living in Omaha. So a big part of what is sustainable for you just really depends on where you live, even within Nashville, right? If you live in Germantown or if you live in Goodlettsville, big difference, big variance in terms of how much money you need to make, right? In order to make your business sustainable. So believe it or not, there is no perfect formula for how to come up with your freelance rates. The amount of money that you charge should put a smile on your face. Freelancing should be fun, remember? What's the point of taking on the stress of business ownership if you're not going to do your best to make it fun and satisfying every step of the way? Obviously, if you bought my course and I were coaching you one-on-one, I would help you use some calculations to come up with your monthly survival number and then the number that would really help you thrive. There are some calculations that you can use for that, but what number will put a smile on your face? And then here's a fake quote from Jenny. I'm going to charge what I feel great about making, right? Each freelance project will make you a little bit smarter. And as you get smarter, you'll realize that you need to adjust your prices to get the results you want and meet your earning goals. So your pricing is going to evolve over time. Whew, okay. I'm going to fly through this very, very quickly to make sure we have some time for Q&A at the end. Don't let the word marketing freak you out. Marketing is just spreading the word and giving people a chance to care. That's my dead simple definition. If you're not already well-versed in marketing and you're not consistent with marketing yourself as a freelancer, I would say pick 2 strategies out of these 12. You're welcome to add to the list, but pick 2. Don't try to run all the strategies. Do less, but better. Jenny's not going to do all the things. She's going to focus on finding startups on Instagram and building relationships with them on Instagram. She's going to focus on finding law firms on LinkedIn and building relationships with them on LinkedIn. So here's your cocktail napkin marketing plan. You pick 2 strategies for your 2 different niches. Always tap into your existing network first, but then plan on putting 100 activities into each of the 3 marketing strategies. Okay. So consistency trumps everything. You don't even have to have a great marketing plan, but if you stick with it, you'll see results. It's sort of like, it doesn't matter whether you do CrossFit or you do like Olympic weightlifting or you run or you cycle. If you committed to one exercise routine, you would see results, right? So in Jenny's case, she's like, okay, for 100 days, I'm going to post on Instagram. I'm going to follow founders. I'm going to comment on their posts. I'm going to start conversations. I'm going to show up and be helpful. Most freelancers don't see success in their marketing because they're inconsistent and because they give up too soon. So I would encourage you to not press pause on a specific strategy until you have invested a statistically significant number of activities. That's why I picked 100. If you haven't shown up in the same place 100 times, it was never realistic for you to expect results in the first place. Statistically significant number of activities. And then once you have some results, then you can double down on what works and you stop doing what doesn't work. Okay. I have hit you in the face with a fire hose. How are you all feeling? Astrid, give me some feedback. Yes, Astrid, at least Astrid's having a good time. She's laughing. Okay, here's the summary again. I'm going to give you the worksheets at the end. Before we switch gears, I want to tell you about the course. There is no possible way that I could pack everything I know into a 35-minute webinar. Those of you who like this type of training would love Freelance Cake. Gosh, I made some really boneheaded mistakes, and it is very satisfying to me to help freelancers out there not make all the same mistakes that I did. I found that when I was in freelancing, a lot of my assumptions were just wrong. You can't know what you don't know. And all of my professors, it's not like they were teaching me all of these counterintuitive business truths that were going to set me up for success. So I am very good at sunburns and I'm very good at freelancing, and I would love to help you with some simple, actionable recommendations. I don't want you just to trade your time for money. That's a dead end. That's a whole other training that I've spent a ton of time in Freelance Cake talking about this. There are just all those little tricks of the trade where if you come from a fine arts background or if you come from a liberal arts background, you just don't know, right? Like you take at face value the things that clients say, when in fact, half the time, if you have the right email template and then you follow up in the right way, the maybe becomes a yes. and you end up making a lot more money because you did, when a client said, sorry, we don't have that much money, you just assumed that that was true. You know, I didn't have a course in college. It's like, here's how to negotiate. Here's how to sell. Oh, by the way, half of business is managing your own emotional reactions to the things that happen. Guess what? Email is always a bad medium to express frustration. Like, where was that college course, right? A big part of not getting trapped into the trading time for money thing is learning how to turn your services into products, packaging up your services as products. Then of course there's Jim. When you are busy, like, I don't know about you guys, I don't have time anymore to sit down and learn about something beginning to end. And so the way I learn is through a lot of audio. When I created the course, I'm like, I'm a very busy father with 3 young children. I have to create it, and I have to deliver the content in a way that kind of makes sense for me. Then finally, it's about systems and processes. I think about it as scaffolding. If you haven't made the money that you want to make as a freelancer, it's less that like, oh, wow, you just lack this significant amount of talent as a designer. Has a lot more to do with what is your onboarding process? What is your project management process? Do you have a rock solid client service agreement that keeps you from getting screwed? When a client flakes out mid-project and they don't pay you, what do you do, right? And when it comes to raising your rates, how do you do that without losing the clients you've already got? So again, this is going to be right for some of you. It's not right for all of you. 6 modules, 22 lessons. You get all of my stuff. And what's cool about that is means you don't have to create it from scratch. I don't think I'm charging this to you guys. $299. What did I say? Sorry, I just lost track. I think I'm trying to remember. I think it's $150 off. I don't remember what I said to. Anyway, it does not matter. Sorry. I'll give you $150 off if you want it. And I'll also do a one-on-one consultation with you. It would be fun to see Astrid smile a little bit more of it, right? But love to personalize it. And then if you don't like it, ask for a refund, period. No questions asked, okay? That's it. I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. And I'm actually going to stop the screen share, or maybe Haley can.
Yeah, you can stop it yourself.
Okay, cool.
And I think we had some Q&A in the chat, actually, if we want to start with that.
Let's do it. Let's do it all rapid fire. I talked longer than I meant to.
Sam asked, he wanted you to go a little more in depth about like talking about like getting into a niche. Sam, do you want to clarify on that?
Yeah, essentially I was just asking, you know, because I'm in gaming. I organize video game tournaments for different clients in the space. And there's like a bunch of different video game titles. And so my question to you would be, is it worth it to stay broad and be able to say, hey, I can organize events for this game. I can do FIFA. I can do Call of Duty. I can do League of Legends. Or is it more recommended to pick like 1 or 2 specific titles and really hone in on the clients that are more interested in that title? Does that make sense?
It does. I would recommend the latter, so that you become known as the go-to guy for FIFA events, right? And it comes down to building a name for yourself and developing your authority, having really strong positioning. And the cool thing is, even if like on your website or on your LinkedIn summary, you're like, I'm the go-to guy for these 2 types of events, you'll still get inquiries from people who are like, hey, I know that you're focused over here, but you've got such incredible testimonials. Would you do my event too? Would you at least consider it? So I've had people who know that my expertise is over here, at least the expertise I broadcast. actually request to work with me, which gives you much better negotiation later down the road. But pick the one, two, or three things that you want to be known for, build your messaging around that, and that's going to give you much stronger positioning.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Who else? Let's see.
It looks like a lot of people want to hear more about contracts and kind of like your advice there. I don't know if maybe either May or Katie want to like clarify or.
So I was like, oh, I didn't even put the discount code in there. Sorry about that. So the contract I use is one created by my attorney. You know how I was just telling Sam about expertise and authority? It's crazy to me that people will spend $5,000 on a website and then look for a free contract. That doesn't make sense, right? Because your contract is meant to protect you. And not only that, it's meant to protect your client too. My master service agreement has a neutral construction, meaning they have to honor me and I have to honor them. And it's ultimately about making everything super clear, removing as much ambiguity as possible, because ambiguity is your enemy. Like, I'll give you an example. Having done a lot of writing, what is a page? Like, is a page on a website? You have some web pages that have 100 words of content. You have other web pages that have 10,000 words of content. So if I'm selling a client a page of content, what does that even mean, right? And how are you going to hash out all those definitions so that the client is clear what she is getting, and so that I'm clear what I'm on the hook for, so that down the road when the client is like, hey, we need this page too, and you're like, no problem, I'll open a new invoice for that. And she's like, what do you mean? And you're like, oh, well, you see in our contract, in your original sitemap, you were only asking for these 9 pages, and you just asked for a 10th page. That's outside of scope. I really want to help you with that. And there will be an extra charge for that because that's not what we both agreed on in advance. And most clients are reasonable people, and they'll be like, oh, sorry, I just lost track of what the scope was. Yes, send me a new invoice. So with your master service agreement, I would recommend working with an attorney, or find a friend who's a freelancer who has a real deal contract that they have gotten from an attorney, and ask if you can have theirs. Like, I just onboarded a new coaching client, and I'm like, if you become a coaching client, I'll just give you my contract. Right. So, I hope that helps. I don't mean to dance around it, but don't try to save money on your contract. It's too important. Okay. This is from May. Consulting other new optometry businesses. My methods are very new and technically risky. What advice do you have for freelance consultants that have a very new post-pandemic? I would say honesty. If you're advocating for methods, or you're encouraging your clients to take some risks, they need to indemnify you. And it goes back to your contract. Just asking them to recognize that they can't hold you at fault if some of the things that you recommend they try don't end up working. So again, that's where an indemnification clause in your contract's important. You have proved your methods within your own practice, and you have video reviews and written testimonials. Is that my best asset to get other practices to follow suit and hire me as a consultant? In my experience with consulting, they hire me because I ask good questions and I can help them solve their problems. Testimonials and video reviews are huge. I would also write out long form case studies where you show there's a clear narrative for what was the client's big problem. What did the journey look like? What was your process? So it's like problem, process, and destination, or problem, process, solution. But if you don't have long form case studies, I would write those. I know it can be hard work to write them, but think about those case studies as assets. And if you want to email me, then I will send you to a podcast episode with the guy from Case Study Buddy, who does a really good job at laying out what should go into a good case study. Let's see. Belgium. Awesome, Astrid. Yeah, with everything going on in the US right now, you're like, well, I can always bounce back to Belgium if I need to. You've got an escape plan, right? I've been
I'm
to
trying to
Belgium.
escape Belgium.
I have been to Bruges. I've been to Brussels. Beautiful country. Will we get these slides? Sure, I'm happy. That's from Sam. I'm happy to include those. When I said productized earlier, I was saying productized services. Productized services are an open-ended freelance service that you package up and sell as a fixed price, fixed scope project with clear deliverables, clear benefits, and clear due dates. Typically, you deliver this on a fixed time frame. So one of Sam's productized services could be a FIFA event that is executed from start to finish in 90 days. Here's the cost. Here's what the client gets. Here's what the client does not get. So Sam wouldn't just say, hey, y'all, like I can help you put on your event. He would have a package that would speak directly to the need of someone who wants to organize a FIFA event and is looking for like a complete soup to nuts solution. And again, going back to the presentation, what are the outcomes that your dream client is after? Create an offer that's like, hey, you know that thing you want to pull off an incredibly successful virtual gaming event? Well, that's what I do, and here's the cost, right? What questions can I ask to get them to open up and break the ice? This is from M. Woods. I'm guessing that might be about like the early get to know you conversation. I've got a blog post. I could send the link over to everybody, but it talks about open-ended consulting questions. One of the ones I'll start with is, okay, so tell me why we're here. And what happened that made you want to talk to someone like me? And 6 months from now, if we were to work together, what do you wish would exist then that doesn't exist now? What was your biggest frustration with your last freelance writer? So I have this toolkit of questions, consulting questions that I use to get people to open up, because it won't surprise you that oftentimes there's some initial request, right? And the initial request is website. And then if you say, well, tell me more about why you want a new website. Well, our existing website is dated. It just doesn't reflect high quality. Okay, so if you were to have a website you were really proud of, what then? Well, we want to get new leads through our website. And you're like, whoa, like just having a new website is not the same as getting more leads through your website. Oh, so you're really wanting to grow your business this year? Yeah, like I said. And you're like, no, this is the first time that you've said you want to grow your business. You were just attributing that growth to a website. A website is just a marketing vehicle. If you don't have a really good strategy, I would never say this to a client, not be that combative, but you get what I'm saying. It's sort of like peeling the onion, and open-ended consulting questions help you peel back the layers so that you can get to the outcome the client's really after. Really, I want to do a FIFA event. I have so much on my plate right now with, a parent who's sick or kids who are doing the virtual school thing. And I've done all my events in the past, and I really just need someone who can act and think like a partner, but then just go pull off the perfect event. And Sam was like, you know what? I think I know somebody. Ding. But anyway, okay. Haley, how much more time do we have?
Technically we're out of time, so we can wrap things up.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So everyone will get an email with this video presentation, contact from Austin, the slides, and kind of these different worksheets, probably either end of day or tomorrow, whenever this uploads to YouTube. But thank you so much, Austin. You're a baller. Come visit us at the EC. As you can see, probably we're like super busy. I'm like doing a million things at once right now, but all exciting things. Thank you so much, though, Austin.
It was a blast. I hope you all got a little bit of clarity. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.